everyone. Welcome to another episode of All Elite Arcade. It's Monday, the day to discuss video games. I hope you've been playing a bunch of them over the last week because I know I have. Chugs, what about you? Have you had a very busy game week?
I've had a pretty busy video game week. Again, this past week has been super busy in regards to travel and stuff like that.
Oh, yes.
But I have had the chance to play quite a bit of video games. First of all, Uno, I want to start with the same thing that I always talk about, that being Pokemon trading card game Pocket, still collecting them all, if you will, and also battling as much as I can. So again, having an absolute blast with that. I've gotten to the point now, Uno, where with the solo battles, I have completed all of the solo battles, including like the expert mode, where you have to beat multiple different decks from multiple different sets of packs and things like that. But now I'm going back and doing all of the optional challenges. Like, for example, if there's a grass type that you're fighting on expert mode, there's a challenge where it's like beat the grass deck with only fighting type. So you have like a massive disadvantage, or like beat this deck with only up to 3 diamond rarity and things like that. So going back and doing those optional challenges has been super fun. Also much more difficult. So trying to like mix and match your own deck and coming up with a solution to beating these different challenges has been super fun. It's going to take me a while, I think, but I am getting better. I'm slowly but surely improving, so that's been a lot of fun. That's been me every single morning. In addition to that, also I've had the chance to stream a few times this past week. I have not streamed nearly as much as I would have liked to, just with the travel schedule and stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to stream a lot more here very soon. I think I was only able to stream twice last week, which was a bummer for me. I love to stream as much as possible, but the 2 games that I got to play more of is, number one is more Stellar Blade, which once again, it's more of the same here. Just a super fun action game, very challenging. But the thing that has impressed me the most with Stellar Blade, I think, aside from the combat and the visuals and things like that, is the exploration on these maps is incredible. Like I definitely have been really taking my time exploring as much of the map as I possibly can. And I feel like Stellar Blade is going to take me such a long time just based on my curiosity at the entire world and the levels that you're exploring. Again, oftentimes when you go off the beaten path and explore, you're rewarded with either rare items or cool enemies to fight and things like that. But there's so much more to Stellar Blade than I anticipated. I knew I was going to have fun with the combat and things like that, but I'm having just an absolute blast with the exploration. There's so much juicy lore. There's like passwords you'll find, and then you have to backtrack and open up a door that was locked before. So there's like Metroidvania aspects to it as well. It's just super fun. Really enjoying Stellar Blade. Also, it's already getting more challenging, so I can tell this is going to be pretty tough for me, but I'm really enjoying it. And speaking of more challenging as well, I'm continuing Ender Magnolia, the Metroidvania, the sequel to Ender Lilies, and that game once again is continuing to shape up to be one of my favorite Metroidvanias of all time. I completed this one section, and now I've gone off to another area where you're checking out a Sorcerer's Academy. And the main boss is this sorcerer that you have to fight. Super challenging boss fight, but also, minor spoilers, but I got super excited, is the last time that I played Ender Magnolia, I believe I encountered and talked to Lily, who is the main character of Ender Lilies. And I wasn't sure if it was going to super correlate with Ender Lilies, but certainly it has. And the way they did it was so cool. Is Lily is like wearing a hood in this scenario, and you just see a little bit of her hair, and she hasn't turned around yet. And then the infamous Lily theme starts playing, like the main theme from Ender Lilies. And she turns around. I got chills. I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I'm curious to see the interaction with Lily throughout this game as well. But once again, Uno, more of the same. Just Ender Magnolia is just a top tier Metroidvania that I am really enjoying. In regards to off stream, I did get to play a little bit more of Doom: The Dark Ages, which once again recently completed that open world map where you could kind of pick and choose where you wanted to go. Again, honest to God, it's more of the same. I haven't made too much progress in Doom: The Dark Ages, but the little bit that I have made, just loving the game so much. Again, I've mentioned this before, but I love the weight of the Doomslayer. I love the exploration. I love the new weapons. I think I mentioned this last time, but recently got the chain ball gun last time that shoots out like a shot put almost. That is just such a cool weapon. But yeah, having a blast with that also. And but the two things really that I super wanted to mention is, number one, I think I had mentioned that I am so close to finishing Nine Souls on my Steam Deck.
You did
and
last
I believe
week, yes.
Yes. And I believe the last time we spoke, I said I was about to fight the final boss. I got to the final boss. And Uno, this is going to be one of the most challenging things, one of the most challenging bosses I will ever have to beat. It's to a point where the final boss is so challenging that I'm genuinely like, am I going to be able to do this? I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going. And I've only attempted the boss like 10 times, maybe. However, this boss is such a challenge of every single skill, every single fight, every single defensive move, every single offensive move you can think of, you are challenged and expected to use in this fight. And the thing that scares me is I did look this up, and again, minor spoilers for Nine Souls, but the final boss is indeed a 3-phase fight. And I got to a point where I did get to the second phase like twice, maybe, but the boss is just unbelievably tough. Your reaction time is expected to be so quick. You borderline have to play perfect, but it's really, really cool. And I think by accident, I've almost, I don't want to say I've 100% of the game because I don't think I'm going to get all the achievements, but there's a little achievement tracker at the bottom of the game, and it says right now I'm 98% of the way complete. I've collected like every single collectible, picked up every single map fragment. I think I got every single upgrade that you can possibly get. So I'm going in as strong as you possibly can. I believe too, I've fought like every optional boss that you could fight as well. But man, Nine Souls is an amazing game, but holy crap, the final boss is so tough. I'm actually curious for anyone listening right now, if you've played Nine Souls and beaten Nine Souls, I'm curious to see how challenging you felt. Egong is the final boss in Nine Souls, but just an amazing fight. So hopefully in the next few weeks, I'll be able to say that I've beaten Nine Souls and check that off the list. But last but not least is I did want to mention this. I know I've been saying for a long time that I have to finish South of Midnight, which I do. But Uno, I've been saying for weeks, I can't stop thinking about Expedition 33. Just can't stop thinking about it. So I decided to download it on my Steam Deck and play it a little bit as well. In between getting my butt kicked in the final boss of Nine Souls, I'm playing a little Expedition 33 as well. Again, still super early in this game, but wow. Again, the visuals on PC are just so absolutely breathtaking. It's unbelievable to see. Also, I love that within Expedition 33, there's this amazing world map that I discovered for the first time, which very traditional RPG style, where there's an open world map to explore and different areas to go to. For example, I went to this one area that I wasn't supposed to go to, and it said danger before I entered it, and went and attempted to fight this boss who just... If I got touched one time, I died, and I did like virtually no damage. But I love that exists. So now I have a party of 3, and as I'm continuing to play more of this game, not only is the story just absolutely incredible, the music is absolutely incredible, the character development, the voice acting, everything about this game is so amazing. But my God, the intricacies of the combat now, as I'm getting more and more skills and trying to decide what route I want to go. Like, for example, I may have one person who I'm building up to be more of a healer, but I love the aspects too of, like, again, all the different elements you can use. For example, I may use a move with one character that sets that character on fire, because then I know that if I use another skill with another character, it does double damage, or it marks them because they're on fire. There's so much problem solving and almost a puzzle aspect to this combat system and to this game that makes it so much fun. And again, there's a million different approaches, a million different ways that you can go. So once again, I think Expedition 33 being given all this love and all this hype is unbelievably deserved. I really do think it's in the running and very well could win Game of the Year. It's just, my God, what an amazing game that I can't wait to continue. So a lot of great video games I got to play this week, Uno.
And I really don't disagree about Expedition 33. It's like a weird middle ground between both of our interests, where the high parry and dodge stuff is right up the alley of like all those third person action games that have become, unanimous with Elden Ring and Dark
Sure.
Souls, but have
Like
become
a Souls-like, yeah.
Souls-like have become the thing to play in the last decade. But it also has a puzzle aspect that I feel like I've played a lot of RPGs, especially like these turn-based RPGs, where you could just mash the attack button and be fine.
Yep.
Really, in this game, once you start getting into the open world, you start traversing to other places. There's no way you could just smash attack and win.
Nope.
It would be impossible. You have to learn the mechanics of dodge and parry, and you have to learn the status effects as well. It's
Absolutely.
a great little puzzle. I love it.
Yeah, me too. And when you really think about what this game has accomplished, it's kind of unbelievable. It, like, in the sense of, don't get me wrong, anyone who likes turn-based games thinks this game is incredible. It's a brilliantly made game, unbelievable. Again, we've talked about it: graphics, voice acting, music, all that stuff, exploration, all of it is so fun, the sense of wonder. But the thing I'm most impressed with is there are so many people that have never wanted to give turn-based games a chance, or like weren't super interested in turn-based RPGs, that now love this game and now get it. Like, that's crazy for a game to come out and make you go, oh, I think I like this genre now. I think I like turn-based RPGs just because of what Expedition 33 has been able to do. It's really, really impressive, and it has me really excited for the future, and just how creative these devs were in making this game not only interesting for turn-based RPG fans, but interesting for people who weren't crazy into turn-based RPGs. It's very impressive. Very impressive.
It's bridged the gap with anyone that wasn't willing to like engage. Well, because like to a lot of my friends, it's the same thing. Turn-based seemed boring to them. This takes away any precedent of boring and repetitiveness, because every fight, with some exception, you will see patterns that will come again. But like every time you see that pattern, it will also probably, that enemy will find another pattern or couple two patterns together, one after the other. So you always have to be on your toes. I'm a bold claim, but I think it's my favorite RPG system as turn-based, because I've been able to, with every character you play, they all play a little different, but they also have a synergy between each other, that if you're not looking into the status effects and you're not looking into the different attacks, and not to mention that you can choose what spells and attacks you load on your character, as well as secondary effects of your weaponry, and you can level up those different weapons if you wanted to start with the starting weapon, because, for example, let's say it has a 25 critical rate and that's what you want to keep, then you could level that up, and there's actual depth to that one weapon rather than just constantly get the strongest one. I feel like every part of this game has figured out, how do we take the most boring aspects of RPG and really level it up to like a current day. And I think that's why it's getting all this claim, this acclaim for sure. I do want to say, and this is something I think both of us feel strongly about, but it's a game that is absolutely stunning when it comes to on PC. But initially, I played mine on Xbox Series S, and I'm not saying it was hideous. It's definitely not an ugly game, but I was not moved by the graphical fidelity on Series S. In fact, I didn't know what the actual game looked like at full tilt until I played it on a PC, and it is dramatically different, especially on the lighting engine. And I bet on your side too with the Steam Deck, it must be even more dumbed down as well.
Yes, I'm so glad that you brought that up. Yes, because I first played the game on my PC, and again, just like jaw-droppingly gorgeous, just a beautiful game. And on Steam Deck, it does run. Don't get me wrong. There have been no issues as far as the frame rate and things like that. But yes, the game looks completely different. Yeah, completely different. Again, this clearly is a graphically very, very intense game. And again, still, if I'm traveling and things like that, and I don't have the option to play it on my PC, it is more than capable of being played on Steam Deck. But yeah, all these amazing graphics that you keep hearing about, that will not appear on something like a Steam Deck. You'll see that on a more powerful PC, or I'm sure PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X as well. But yeah, huge difference in the graphics when you play it on Steam Deck versus the like a PC. Yeah,
but they all run with all the frame rates needed for the parry and dodge. So like,
absolutely.
So as far as the graphics settings, they might lower depending on your device, but the game still feels and plays as well on all of them. So still And that's what I've been doing too. If I'm playing on my PC, great. But if I travel, I might bring my Xbox, and I've been playing it a little bit on there too.
Right.
So on my side of things, we're talking video games. I'm going to talk about the games that I talked about last week. We're talking Expedition 33. I did make it to the boss. I did not play against the boss quite yet because I've decided I want to make sure that I've exhausted the things I can do now. There is definitely more after the boss. There's no way there isn't because of the way you've now seen the overworld map and the way it's structured. There's more to explore and there's more to see within that. And also there's just so many bosses that early on, unless you are a parry master, there is no way around it. You have to come back. But I haven't put more time into it. I will play more Expedition 33. The reason I did not play is because there is a bunch of other games that came out this week, as well as the games I've been playing last week. You talked Doom. I played more of Dark Ages, Doom.
Nice.
A lot of people don't seem to be liking this one as much as the other games. I think a lot of it is because Doom 2016 and Eternals, incredible games, and also very fast paced. This one is, while fast paced, I think it is more meticulous in the way you have to do things. Like if I see a shielded enemy, I switch over to that weapon, because if I don't shoot that shield to use it to explode and take out some enemies, the pattern of like how fast I do things will slow down. Or if a certain enemy type comes in, I almost have to ignore everyone else and can't mow them down until I address that. And so I kind of like the deliberate slowness of some of it. It definitely has a different rhythm to it. And the further I go into, I like the variety that they had. You talked about a big open world map. You know, we had very linear maps. Then we had a dragon focused map where you're traversing the map, flying and essentially going to anchor points to get into little parts of the map. We had a mech map, which was pretty linear, but you're a mech fighting other mechs. Very, very cool. And then in the recent parts, I think I may be 2 chapters further than you, so about halfway through the game, they start introducing these more open world ones where you have an entry point, but as soon as you walked in, you realize, oh, I could go anywhere to address these 5 points I need to do. They're not open world. Like, it will not take you 3 hours to complete these, but like there's enough content hidden in there. If you're a guy or a gal who likes secrets, there is plenty to find in each map. And they're not shy. They'll show you where they're done. Because you have to find keys, you have to find mechanisms sometimes to create platforms to get there. And I've thoroughly enjoyed Doom. I will definitely be finishing it.
Me too.
If I had to say where it ranks, I still think it's probably inferior to Eternals in 2016, but it's still a very high caliber game, and I've been enjoying it a whole lot. And that's been the game I've been playing a lot of, with the exception of last week I talked about the 100-line Last Chance Academy. That is the latest game from ex-devs of Danganronpa, Zero Escape, these visual novel games. And I talked about last week how it has a lot of the same topics as those previous games. It's about hope. It's about a classroom of students. And it's about facing a large world ending catastrophe, essentially, and you're like the last bastion against this catastrophe. A lot of the stuff that would happen to Danganronpa and a lot of the stuff that happens in Zero Escape as well, it is kind of laid out the same way. In fact, that now I've done my first ending, and I will precede this, and before I talk about this too thoroughly, it took me 45 hours to get to the first ending. So, wow, heads up. Because I'm about to say the one thing I hate to say about every video game. It gets good after the first ending, guys. Which I hate to say that, because no person should ever give 45 hours to a game just to start seeing the cool content. But if you've never played a Danganronpa game or anything of the sort, you will be fine playing the first 45 hours and be completely entertained. If you played those previous games, it touches a lot of the topics. It's got a lot of the same art styles, and it plays on those tropes, so much so that you feel like at times like, okay, this is almost lazy. But it's not. Now that I've passed the first ending, and spoiler for the game, 100-line, but now I've gone back in time. You play 100 days to get to this ending, and then you go back in time to day number 2, and they start, you realize you have the power to go back in time, and then they give you a chapter select screen that essentially your first playthrough was just one way of doing it, and then they give you the option and where they show you every branch of where it can branch off into other stuff. And that's when you start realizing the depth of the video game is that you only saw one string and there is probably 100 different endings now. So I'm really enjoying going back, and now the beauty of it too is your one character that goes back in time is aware of everything that happened before, but no one else is. So you're going back into situations that you've seen, but now you're aware of different parts that happen in the story. So you're capable of changing the future and going into a different string. And it's really like, at times there are some cool endings and there's been some really weird bad endings, but it is very neat to come back and navigate that timeline. And now you can also skip, sections. You don't have to play the 100 days entirely. You can go back. And every time also, if you go back and you play through a small string of it, rather than have completely the same text, one character is aware. So he's now changing the dialogue. So all the dialogue is rewritten entirely. So if you were to replay it, it would have completely new dialogue. So it's been, that's the most interesting mechanic, I think, of that game. And it sucks that it takes 45 hours to get there. But now I'm at this place where I'm so enamored with the chapter selects section and the returning through the past. It makes me think of like Detroit had this, a lot of like decision-based games will let you have that at the very end once you've made your decision. This is the same thing, except they made it part of the story that you've gone and essentially are trying to perfect it so that everyone survives the full 100 days and you get the satisfying ending that you want. And also, the first ending leaves you on like 4 cliffhangers, so you have no choice to go back if you wanted to. It's not for everyone, but I've been thoroughly enjoying it. I spent a good week just hammering through that first one.
Nice.
So those are the games that I've been playing since last week. I also Blueprints. I've now decided I'm retired from.
Wow!
Yeah, I love the game, incredible. But I'm now so far at a point that I would just be grinding to try and get the last few little secrets that have no real reward, because at this point I just read the Wikipedia of what happens at the end, because I was like, okay, this is too smart for me. And until somebody tells me there's another thing that's been updated or that I get a definite end, I will just be content with what I have. I've played probably 80 plus hours of this incredible game. This week though, a bunch of new games came out, including the sequel to Duck Detective. Duck Detective 2 is out. Duck Detective is a point-and-click game, but instead of just getting items and then using those items in scenarios to fix puzzles, it's kind of laid out like Rise of the Golden Idol, where you investigate a scene, and by investigating the scene, you'll start getting a Rolodex of terms. It'll be names, it'll be like feelings, it'll be objects, and what you need to do is solve the cases. Rather than one large case, it's multiple small cases that lead to the big one, and you use the terminology that you found in the map to fill up a paragraph of content to decipher if you have solved the riddle of what that place is. And a lot of it is deductive, so it's not like, if person A killed person B, it will not just tell you that as you are looking around. You will have to piece together the pieces together, and you could use the hint system. It would probably give you there, but you could actually use deductive skills to figure it out. And what's very neat too is the game is fairly short. You beat it within 3 hours, so I beat it already. It's cute. It's PG. Anyone can play it with a family member and be fine. And at the very end, you actually have decisions to make. And so the ending can branch into different paths. Not an immense amount, but there is some portion of it that gets changed based on what you decide. And they also, in a very Telltale style, once you make your decisions, it'll give you the percentage of what people did at the end, so you get to kind of compare yourself to other people. So it's very interesting. If you like the first Duck Detective, the second one, Duck Detective Ghost of Glamping, is now out, and they just dropped it without announcing it. Incredible little game if you
Nice.
are interested. Another game I played a lot of was Deliver at All Costs, which we had talked about before. It's a isometric view car-based game, so kind of like I wouldn't say GTA, but essentially you are a character in like 1950s who works at a delivery job, and you have a big open world map where you have a vehicle and you have to make little deliveries. But the thing that's different about this is that it has a very humoristic output, and the physics in the video game are hilarious. Like you can crush buildings, you can drive through people with almost no issues, and part of your missions will also hinder your car. So to give you a slight spoiler, some of the stuff that you might be bringing from one to the other could be like a giant fish, and the giant fish is flopping it, so therefore your car can't stay straight. Or you've got a big air balloon behind, which means that if you hit a bump, your car is now flying in the air, and you
That's amazing.
You can't decipher where you're going to land and so on. So it's been very fun. I've had a great time with it. Very enjoyable. I don't think this will be a breakaway game in any sense, but it's a lot of fun if you want to get something in there for within 10 hours. I think you beat it. And the thing that I think is very surprising is this is published by Konami, and Konami doesn't do a lot of video games recently. It's kind of surprising that they've published this because it does not seem like something they would typically do. And so I'm very curious what the future of Konami is going to be as far as a publishing wing, because it seems like they're making smaller projects now. Hopefully that will lead to, the resurgence of them and not just be a gambling machine company, essentially.
Yeah.
And then finally, another sequel, Monster Train 2 came out this week. Monster Train 2 is... well, obviously the sequel to Monster Train, it's essentially a deck building game, but instead of just playing cards against cards, it is you enter a train, and every train cab is a different floor, and you, one after the other, the enemies enter on one floor, they go to the next floor, they go to the next floor, and if they get to your engine, they can kill your train and essentially end your run. And so you have to layer your attack cards across all three layers. And what's very neat about these games is that much like we were talking about Expedition 33, you have to really solve little puzzles about how the status effects work on people, and you have to actually look into your enemies and see what their status effects do to really decipher how you will advance. And there's plenty of ways. There's a bunch of heroes you can start with that have different decks. There's different races or clans that they have different decks of their own as well as supplementary card. If you liked Monster Train 1, it's more of that. They added a new system in this one, so you have your spells, you have your attacks, you have your champion cards, but now you also have armor, weaponry, and room cards. So now you can change your train to have different rooms in them, and they have effects as well as your swords have effects. So it really does branch out the original Monster Train into way more different content, as well as there's a new puzzle challenge mode. There's an actual story that is being given to you. The lore is so unimportant to me in a card game, but it is there for those people who want it. And on top of that, once you do reach a certain point and you unlock Endless Mode, which before was very straightforward and the base game essentially forever, now there's like way more content in it, and it's branched out in a million ways. I have not played an immense amount of this game, but I can tell you by the end of this year, I will, because the first game I put in hundreds of hours, and I think I'm about to do the same on the sequel. If you're not playing it, go check out Monster Train 2. I think it's available everywhere right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's it for the games we've been playing this week. Let us know what you've been playing on youtube.com/AEW Games. That's where our videos are posted every single Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Evil Uno will be in the comments. And plus, I'm always looking for new games. Do let me know what you're playing if we have not mentioned it, or tell us your opinions on the games we did mention so that we can share along. We'll be talking the news of the week right after this. Welcome back. It's time to talk the news of the week. It is May, the end of May, actually, which is quite surprising. The year just keeps rolling on. Time stops for no one. Time stops for no one, including the video game world, because there's a bunch of new news this week, starting with something I really wanted to discuss. Did you know there's a live action Elden Ring movie coming out?
I heard about it. I heard about it, Uno.
It's pretty incredible. So it would seem that Elden Ring 1 has finally been shopped out to be made into a movie by A24. A24 known for doing a lot of horror movies, but also have a very specific visual identity. They're known for very artsy looking movies. So this, I think, will be stunning for sure. And it would seem Alex Garland is involved. Alex Garland made 28 Days Later, the Judge Dredd movie that everyone loves, Ex Machina, that new Civil War movie from a couple of years ago. Essentially, he's got a great track record, so they've got a great director on it as well. I'm very, very excited for this. But if I could be truthful with you, I have no idea what an Elden Ring movie is.
Same thing. Like exactly. The second I heard this as an idea or a concept, I got so excited. Not only because I love Elden Ring so much, and not only because there's been an incredible amount of video game adaptations with television shows and movies, but I've been wondering the same thing. I've been like, how exactly are they going to tell this story? Because again, the Elden Ring story, obviously looking at it from the outside, it's pretty straightforward in the sense of being tarnished and trying to go and fight all these bosses to then become the Elden Lord and things like that. But a lot of the juiciest aspects of the lore in Elden Ring is read through item descriptions and NPC dialogue and things like that, where you kind of have to piece it together. So I'm curious how they're going to do it within the movie, if they're going to make it pretty straightforward, or if it also is going to be like up for your interpretation style thing. But I will say, though, again, the fact that Alex Garland is directing it 28 Days Later is like an incredible movie with, like you said, a very specific art style. So I think this is going to transcend just perfectly into this Elden Ring movie. I don't know how they're going to do it or what they're going to do, but I'm certainly going to see it. I can't wait.
Yeah, I personally have no idea what they can make with this movie, but I will say with the people that they have attached to it as of yet, they've got a great director. They've got one of my favorite production houses on movies right now. I think the visual identity will lend itself to Elden Ring a whole lot. But much like you, I almost feel it would be redundant to the movie if it was lore heavy, because there's no way of doing that in 2 hours and it'd be good.
Not a chance.
And I also feel, and this might be an example of how I am compared to Elden Ring, and as well as the common person that plays it. I feel like most people don't know what the lore is, even though they played it. More because I think a lot of it is about the challenge. It's about the giant bosses. It's about the world that you explore. But I think a lot of people may not have engaged in the world building and the lore as many as, like, I know you have, for example, because you were enamored with those worlds. But I feel like the common person may not know anything about it, and so. Yeah. I would be surprised if they go lore heavy, and I could just see it being, you're tarnished. You want to be this. You'll get some snippets of the lore. Some bosses will be there that you know, but I feel like this movie would probably be worlds better if it was just straightforward. This guy, this gal goes through the world and faces probably 22 bosses throughout a 2.5 hour movie.
Right.
That's how I picture it, but I could be completely wrong. This could be a 4-hour epic from all I know.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is you bring up such a great point, because like the Elden Ring game, and God forbid, if you don't include the DLC, it's like 125 hour, 150 hour game if you're beating like all the bosses and seeing everything. So the idea of trying to cram all of that in 2 hours or 2.5 hours, like you said, seems borderline impossible. So you bringing this up made me think of this, because I feel like, of course, it'd be really, really cool within the movie to have some bosses or some enemies from the game obviously appearing in this film. But I'm curious if they take like just a completely original route almost, and have just like the concept of it with a brand new character, maybe even brand new bosses. I have no idea. But it'd be very, very cool if they obviously tipped their hat and had some enemies and bosses from the game in there. But who knows? This could also be a completely original, different concept with just the same idea of, like you said, being tarnished, fighting bosses, trying to become the Elden Lord. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be really interesting to see.
I actually hope it is more of a complimentary piece, because I think that's the best of both worlds. They could tell their own story, a simplified version, and then like with occasional snippets of like, oh crap, this is connected to Malenia, or this is, or so on and so forth. That I think would actually be the best route, because then you're not hurting anyone's feelings, you're adding to it, and then you can really dumb it down and simplify it in a way that it would be great. One thing, and this is our staff has actually asked us to do this, but we were asked what's Dreamcast for this. I'll be completely honest, I don't know who. One, I don't know what character could be in this movie. And secondary, I think, I was thinking about this, I don't think I know any of the current hot actors anymore. All of my actors are from like 20 years ago.
Right. Same. I am so bad with being able to name a lot of the current actors and actresses. Like, I recognize their faces, but as far as being able to list off a bunch of names, it'd be hard for me right now.
I'm going to make a bold claim. Get Sam Rockwell as the main character for no reason. Yes. Just for me. But yes, very excited. I will definitely be seeing this. There's no doubt in my mind that when the Elden Ring movie comes out, I will be there to watch it. And I am excited. I think regardless of what route they go, I'm very excited to see how this works out, because I think this is a huge game property. It's a huge game property with very loose story points. So I don't think, much like if you did a movie on Dark Souls, I feel like you have a pretty, not narrow, but you have the idea of where it's all going. Whereas this is kind of more open-ended, and so I'm very curious to see what they do with it.
Yeah, me too.
Here's another piece of news: the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered, which just recently came out, is doing very well. So well, in fact, that it massively outsold the original Oblivion in its first week. It made more than the original release did in 15 months, which is a wild claim, but also even more wild when you consider that this was a game dropped on Game Pass as well. And I thought predominantly people were playing it on there, and that does not seem to be the case. Same thing with Expedition 33. I thought there's no way that game's going to be selling so well. Not true, because it's selling a crazy amount right now.
And Uno, not just dropped on Game Pass, but shadow dropped.
Yes.
Like, no advertising. Just like, hey, it's out. There it is. And it's just crushing sales. It's so awesome to see.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. And it tops the U.S. top 20 best-selling games of April 2025. We just got through this information just recently. I'm going to do these backwards. And then I have a little tidbit about the PlayStation sales that I think are very, very cool. Top 20 sales in U.S. for the month of April. Number 20 was Hogwarts Legacy, which very surprising it's still going.
Nice.
Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance, which I have not played, and a lot of people are saying if it's not Expedition 33, that's the game of the year. I will have to get to at some point. Number 18, Elden Ring, still doing strong.
Still going.
Number 17, The Elder Scrolls Online. You're going to see a trend very soon that old games are still running crazy sales right now. Red Dead Redemption 2, number 16.
I love it.
Followed by GTA 5 at number 15. Followed by EA Sports FC 25. That is the soccer/football game, the most recent one. Number 13, Last of Us Part 2.
Wow.
Yeah, old games are still running king. 12, Split Fiction. That's another game from this year I still got to play.
I played a little bit of it. Great game. Great game.
Okay, good to know. 11, Monster Hunter Wilds. Number 10, PGA Tour 2K25. 9, NBA 2K25. 8, WWE 2K25. A lot of 2K25 games here. Number 7, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And then in your final 5 top US games, you've got we're at 6. 6, Indiana Jones The Great Circle. 5, Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is kind of surprising because from what our understanding of it is that it's greatly underperformed on what Ubisoft wanted on sales, which is kind of surprising because I thought it was doing very well, but it does not seem to be the case. Number 4, Minecraft. Unsurprising. I think it's been a top seller for ever since it came out, and the movie just came out recently.
Yeah.
Number 3, MLB The Show 25. Number 2, Forza Horizon 5.
Wow.
And number 1, Oblivion Remastered. Okay, so very cool to see. Surprisingly, Expedition 33 nowhere to be found on the top 20 sales, but it is doing very well. It is in the top sales of Steam every single day. So it's in the top 5 every single day. It must still be doing well.
Also, very quick side note, but this has been incredibly impressive as well to watch because this normally does not happen. Normally, when a game comes out, the concurrent players on Steam is the highest, and then it just drops off as the weeks go on. That has not been the case with Expedition 33. The concurrent players has gone up the longer it's been out, which is such a rare thing. So again, between word of mouth and all the hype surrounding the game, clearly it's been very successful in getting its name out there. So I thought that was a pretty cool stat that I read.
Yeah, and I feel like every week people are still talking about that game. A lot of people are discovering the late parts of that game. And then there's just been constant interviews with developers. The developers, I think, this week came out and said that they had to reevaluate everything they thought about doing for DLC because the game has done so well that they need to support it even further than they anticipated.
Oh,
so like that's
beautiful.
Great news, and also means a bunch more Expedition 33 for us to explore. Here's the thing I wanted to talk about, though. The top 5 best-selling games in April on PlayStation, and this is the most interesting list of all because number 5, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Number 4, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Number 3, MLB The Show. Number 2, Forza Horizon 5. Number 1, Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered. Pretty similar to the top 20 list overall. If you didn't figure it out, 4 of those games are Microsoft games.
Yep. Yeah, 4 of those games published by Microsoft.
That's insane.
It's nuts. It's nuts. But again, looking at their approach, Xbox's approach of like everything is an Xbox. They just want to get their games out there as much as possible to have as many people play them as possible. Clearly, that mentality is being shown right here because
working.
again, 4 of the 5 best-selling PlayStation games are Xbox games.
Which is
so,
it's especially stunning because like 2 years ago we were talking about how, or even a year and a bit ago, we're talking how Xbox did not seem like they were going to have a lot of exclusive and did not have a lot of strong front runners. And now we're a year and a bit later, and all the front runners are Xbox games. So Xbox doing very, very well. I don't know about their hardware sales, but as far as their software sales, they're doing incredible right now. The only one on that list being a Sony game is MLB The Show, which is an exclusive for PlayStation 5. And unless, I like going to baseball, but I'm just not a guy who plays baseball games. And so to me, that's of no interest. Whereas a lot of the other games too are like Forza is a pretty specific type of game too. Call of Duty was always going to sell well. Indiana Jones will as well. And Elder Scrolls is synonymous with video games, so I'm not surprised at all that it made it. But good on Microsoft. They're doing very, very well right now. And
very well.
And that's not the last piece of Microsoft news because Microsoft just added over 50 retro classics on Game Pass. Talking about Game Pass, we're big fans of Game Pass here at All Elite Arcade. They've now added 50 Activision titles and this is also just as surprising, that includes games from the PlayStation, the Super NES, MS-DOS, and more. To give you an idea, they've got Mech Warrior on there, they've got Cosmic Arc, they've got Pitfall, Grand Prix, a lot of like the early 80s games are down in here. All 50 were dropped on Game Pass just recently. Not surprising that these games are on there, but it is surprising to think that like there is no difference now between a PlayStation and Xbox. At some point or another, you're going to be playing it on both consoles one day or another.
Right. And I always appreciate, I know Xbox does it with their own titles lots of times, but Xbox has been championing backwards compatibility and being able to play older titles forever. So getting even more of these retro classics on Xbox is very, very cool to me. Very cool.
Yeah, great week or great month actually for Microsoft. And great month for news. That is it for our news for this week, but that is not it for our podcast because our favorite portion of the show happens right after this. Welcome back. It is time for our favorite part of the show. That's right. It's the arcade mailbag, brought to you by our friends at upperdeck.com. Collect your favorite wrestlers in 2024 and 2025's Upper Deck AEW and start your trading card collection today. Unwrap autographs, memorabilia, and premium tech inserts. We actually have a pack here of the 2025 pack. Chugs, what did we get this week?
Here we go. We got a card right here.
Oh, there it is. We've got Buddy's on there.
Buddy, nice.
There's Abaddon. Hey, that's a cool Abaddon pick. Shibata. I didn't know you had a card, Shibata.
Yeah.
Willa Nightingale.
There he is.
Yeah. Holographic
My boy, Kyle O'Reilly. Let's go.
Another holograph. This one is Matt Jackson, or Matthew now, as he likes to be called.
Yeah, right.
We got a Britt Baker card.
Nice.
We've got FTR. Will Ospreay. Serena Deeb. Mark Sterling's got a card. He's got to be ecstatic.
There we go. Good pack right there. Good pack.
You know, it's a good pack when you pull a Mark Sterling card. Here's the box for the 2025 Allure. Do check them out. They are available out in stores, but also you can visit upperdeck.com to learn more, get your AEW cards, as well as all kinds of other sports memorabilia. Thank you to Upper Deck for sponsoring this segment. We got 3 questions today, Chugs.
We do.
What's question number 1?
We are starting off with a question from Carter. Carter, thank you very much for the question. Carter says, hey guys, love the show. You guys rule. Carter, you rule. Thank you, man. So I just beat Expedition 33, and man, without getting into spoilers, one of the hardest moral choices I've ever had to make in a game came at the very end that I was not prepared for, but I'm still thinking about it since I finished the game. Have you ever played a game that hit you like that, where it made you really question the moral choices you made in the game? Carter, amazing question. And yes, first of all, that has me even more excited to continue Expedition 33. But there's 2 titles that immediately come to mind for me as far as difficult moral choices. Uno, I think you're going to agree with me on one of them, and it's the Walking Dead series from Telltale.
Yes.
Both season 1 and season 2. Specifically for me, season 1, the ending decision, without getting into spoilers, same type of thing. You have to make an incredibly difficult decision where no matter what, it's sad, but you just question if you did the right thing. You're questioning all the decisions you made up to that point. It's such a powerful moment, such an emotional moment. But that game comes to mind immediately, as well as season 2 of The Walking Dead. And the other one for me is Ghost of Tsushima. At the very, very end of that game, you have to make a pretty difficult decision that drastically impacts the end of the game. And the decision I chose ended up being the more emotional one and challenging one to deal with. Just, oh my God, I was a mess at the end of Ghost of Tsushima. So the 2 games that come to mind for me are the Walking Dead Telltale games and the ending to Ghost of Tsushima.
So I not to pick your answer, but for me, especially the Walking Dead season 1 is one that I'll never forget. Telltale in general have a very good knack at making you make decisions, and then at the end showing you like, hey, you did wrong, but you would have done wrong regardless. Here's what people have done in your place. And I've always really enjoyed those games. I'm hoping that and they're supposed to be making a comeback soon. I'm hoping they keep leaning in that direction, because I think that's the best part of making decisions. It can't be as simple as good and bad. There's got to be more to it. There's got to be layers to it, and I've always very much enjoyed that. On the same topic, I like the Until Dawns. I like Detroit's, the ones that your decisions actually change the course of the story. But one of my personal favorites is one that you don't know you're making an active decision on, and that's Undertale. And big spoiler for Undertale, but the game, as you eventually get into the last part of the video game, tells you pretty much right off the bat, if you made a choice early on and you kept making that choice and you didn't know you were, and you're a bad person for it. And I think that's an incredible play at that game, because there is a solution to not being bad in that game, and you would never think about it because of the type of game it is. And it's incredible to think that the way you are playing the game, rather than just be a question that is posed to you, is actually forming your potential ending on that video game. So that's one that I've always thought about, because it made me want to replay the game and essentially play it completely different than what I was playing it originally. And that's one that's always going to last in my memory, because that is an incredible video game for sure.
Oh yeah. Great answer. Great. That's so true. Undertale is awesome for that reason. But Carter, thank you very much for the question. Appreciate it. Great question.
Next question is by Drew. Drew says, hey, Chugs and Nudo, if you could bring back a multiplayer game that has been shut down and lost its player base, which would it be and why? Okay, thank you very much for that question, Drew. I'm going to go say here, and there's no specification about it being purely an online game, and so I am not, and I think, Chugs, you're very similar in this aspect.
Yeah.
I'm not big on online video games, and so I don't have a ton of affinities or misses that I wish I could go back and be like, I wish, the CSGO pages were still around. That's not me. But I will say, I wish Power Stone was around in current day, because I feel like that's a type of video game, if it had been released recently with updated graphics, there would be a scene for it. You could still be playing a bunch of games of it online. You wouldn't have to get people in one room to do it. You would be capable of playing it online, and I think that would aid it tremendously. And so to me, that's the multiplayer game I wish would come back.
Yeah, that's a great answer. For me, the game that immediately comes to mind, it's not shut down, and it hasn't even fully lost its player base. But the one that immediately comes to mind is the game I put the most time into, and that's Halo 5 Guardians. I still go back and will try to get a match, and oftentimes I am able to, but it needs to be like a 4v4. And again, my favorite mode in Halo 5 Guardians was the Warzone mode, where it was 12v12 in this giant open map where you had to capture bases, fight bosses to get points, to get rec points, to get more powerful vehicles and weapons. It was so much chaos and so much fun. To me, one of the best multiplayer modes that the Halo franchise has ever had. So again, Halo 5 Guardians has lost its player base to the point where you can't really find matches like that anymore. You still can play the social playlist and Super Fiesta and Slayer and things like that. Even Warzone Firefight, which is lots of times 6 to 8 players, you could still find some matches. But I wish Halo 5 would get like this resurgence where more and more people played it and you could find huge matches over and over again, because my God, I love that game. Love that game.
Thanks so much, Drew. A great question. Next one is by Finn.
Yes, last but not least, from Finn. Finn says, "Hey, Chugs and Udo, have you ever backed or got hyped for an early access game that just didn't deliver like you hoped? I pre-ordered Edmund McMillan's Legend of Bumbo years ago because I'm a certified hardcore Binding of Isaac fan. Bumbo had so much hype leading up to its launch, but when it dropped, it felt like it was an alpha version of the game. Buggy, light on content, and just kind of soulless, even after multiple updates, and then it was just abandoned. It left such a bad taste that I haven't been able to get excited for his new upcoming game, Mugenics, even though the trailers looked awesome." Finn, thank you very much for the question. So I don't have a specific game that I have backed or got really, really hyped for and then was super disappointed when I actually played it. But the disappointment maybe I've had is I've gotten really, really hyped about games thinking that it's going to drop like fairly soon, and then there's just no release date in sight. Like, for example, I'm a huge Metroidvania fan. There's this game Crowsworn that just looks incredible. Like, a trailer dropped for this game years ago, and I was thinking, ooh, we're going to get this pretty soon. This is pretty exciting. And I believe there's no details or announcement in sight of a release date. So, but I have a very strong feeling when it does release, I'm absolutely going to love it. So I don't have a specific answer to that question, but I have been disappointed in the sense of release dates and things like that. So Crowsworn's a big one for me. But Uno, what about you?
So I've actually had a pretty good experience with most early access and kickstarted games.
Yeah.
I kickstarted Psychonauts 2, and I really enjoyed that game a whole lot.
Great
game. That was like everything I wanted of a sequel. And I've got a lot of early access games that still aren't fully released that I've had disappointing moments with, and most of the disappointment is that, oh man, I wish this was done. Hades 2, when it came out, I played the game, loved it, and then about 30 hours in, I was like, oh, I've reached the point where there is no more content. And so I've essentially taken long breaks in hopes that these will eventually release to their full tilt. But I've never once did I think like this was bad. With the exception of one game that I did kickstart, and that is Shenmue 3. I was a huge Shenmue fan. I used to own a Dreamcast, played through Shenmue 1 and 2, and at the time I thought it was revolutionary. It was an open world game, but an open world game about real life, essentially. You would walk around, you'd have to have a job, there was a weather system, there was a time system, shops were open at certain times, there wasn't like a GPS system to get through and navigate. You had to essentially go through the village, discuss with people, they would give you indications on where to go, blah, 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 blah. It was really revolutionary for the early 2000s. It essentially became what every video game eventually became, and that was like a sim-based game. When they announced Shenmue 3 at this big Sony E3, same year that they announced the Final Fantasy VII remake, it felt like a dream. Like every game I ever wanted was all happening at the same time, and so I backed Shenmue 3 right away. Same developers, same head of development. He was going to continue this story. He was even saying how he had plans to make this a 14-part story. I don't know how that was going to work, but I was so pumped for Shenmue 3. I gave my money right away. Eventually what happened is I got the key for the video game, and it quite unfortunately was a game stuck in 2002. It had 2002 graphics. It had 2002 voice acting. Even the MIDI games felt like they were old. Nothing about the game clicked. It felt almost soulless. And it was a real difficult one to try and get through because I genuinely thought we're going to get a Shenmue for our days. This came out, I think, in 2022, if I remember correctly. And so I thought, maybe even earlier, I thought, like, this is it. We're getting a current day Shenmue. We're getting the continuation of the story. Instead, this was like a drawn-out story with the intention of doing 11 more parts and a engine and a visual identity, and everything about it was just so stuck in the times that it did not do well commercially. It did not do well critically, and it burned me on the idea of ever kickstarting a game again because I had waited, I think, 5 years until it had been released and was not at all what I had hoped for. But that is one of maybe 15 in my entirety. I do my research, though, in advance usually. I do not just jump into a video game unless I think it will be good. But great question, Finn. Very, very thankful for that question. If you want your questions answered on the Arcade Mailbag, you can. tbs.com/arcade mailbag. If you're North American, you can send your questions in. We answer 3, maybe 4 even sometimes at the end of every single one of our episodes. Our episodes drop every single Monday. Make sure you hit that follow, that subscribe, or whatever button it takes for you to follow us on your podcast network, or go to youtube.com/AEW Games and follow our video format. It drops every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time, as well as MXM's show drops on Thursdays. That's the Bronami code. So do go to our YouTube, follow that, and please go into the comment section. Evil Uno will be in there to respond to you. Chugs, where can we find you this week, and what will you be doing?
Yes, so this week you can find me on Twitch. I am fairly confident I'm going to be able to stream a lot more this week than the previous week based on how busy it was. Still be traveling, but absolutely going to be able to stream this week. I'm going to be continuing my first playthrough of Silent Hill 3, of course getting closer and closer to finishing the Blood and Wine DLC in The Witcher 3, my first playthrough of Final Fantasy VI, my first playthrough of Stellar Blade, and also my first playthrough of Ender Magnolia. So a wide variety of stuff. Once again, you can find me at twitch.tv/the Chugs. Please feel free to come and hang out.
You can find me at twitch.tv/eviluno. I will be back on stream by the time this episode drops because I'm planning to do it this weekend. I was in the middle of a big Donkey Kong thing. I am actually going to take a little break from Donkey Kong because I need more hardware to make it work. I don't know why I didn't think of this. I got the Donkey Konga stuff. I got a GameCube. I got everything, but then I don't have a converter for RGA to my computer. So I do not have that. So I will be streaming some independent games over at twitch.tv/eviluno. And big event, if you drop this Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my live wrestling event will be on twitch.tv/eviluno. That's Mystery Wrestling. Do check that out. It would be an immense thank you if you did. Do follow everywhere, and we will be back next Monday with more All Elite Arcade. As always, we thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.